Oh, wow. That was some awesome plays. Thank you all for participating and giving all your energy to that. So I'm going to go over the plays now, kind of, and talk a little bit about what was going on here. So the first play was Elymas, the sorcerer, who was struck blind by Paul. And so this is right at the beginning of his journey, and this is kind of a foreshadow of things to come, of this running into people who are against him or false teachings, and Paul having the power to do a miraculous event. He blinds Elymas and eventually turns Sergius Paulus to the faith, right? And that's important because Sergius Paulus is the proconsul, so he's actually like kind of running this island here, right? So that's important. So the next story that we have is still on the first journey. They go up to Lystra. And the really cool thing about him preaching in Lystra is that they come in there, and the first thing that Paul does is he sees someone who is crippled, and he heals him. So awesome, right? But the people of Lystra they all kind of go, here, I'll just turn off the screen here. Kind of blinking. The people of Lystra they think that Paul and Silas are gods. They're like, whoa, wow, let's sacrifice. So now, do you think that maybe Paul at this point in time is going, oh, okay, well, they're treating us pretty well here, right? They're not running into any problems like they were earlier. People are treating them pretty well. But no, Paul's like, no, this is not us. This is God. God's given us this power, and that's the message that I'm bringing to you today. That this isn't us. So, but unfortunately, when they were in Antioch, there's some of the Jewish leaders there who are unhappy with the kind of the unrest that Paul is creating. So they follow him to Lystra, and they go, hey, this guy here, he's bad. And these Jewish leaders, they actually turn the crowds, right? They turn the crowds on Paul, and Paul begins to being stoned, right? So they're throwing stones at him. And now, this is a really interesting story, because if we remember back to last class, Paul was part of sanctioning St. Stephen's stoning, right? So Paul was there, and he said, yeah, let's go ahead with this. And now Paul is being stoned, right? So you have to think that maybe when the stones are flying, he's flashing back to what he did to Stephen, right? So that's kind of an interesting part of the story. And then, and Paul might even think that this is the end, right? That okay, I'm done. I'm not going to survive this. This is my end. But we know from the story, and we know from this map, that it's not done. It's actually just beginning for Paul's missionary journeys, right? So he comes out. They drag him out of town. They think he's dead, and he comes back, and so now you think, okay, you just about got killed. You think you're going to take it easy a little bit. No, Paul doesn't take it easy at all. He's going out to the next place, right? So eventually we got, and we saw that in that play. So the next play we saw was Silas and Paul in prison. So this is a really cool story. Is they're all the way over in where are they? In Philippi, right? So in Greece, they're in Philippi, and later on we're going to get Paul's letter to the Philippians, right? So they're in Philippi, and they get arrested, and we saw them singing in prison, right? In the stocks, they were singing, and God provides this earthquake. But he doesn't provide this earthquake to get Paul and Silas out of prison. He provides the earthquake so that Paul and Silas can preach to the jailer, so he can preach to the other people in the prison, right? So that is quite the message. Also, the hope and resilience. So singing in prison is kind of seen as this is supposed to be a terrible time. You're captured, you're locked up, and yet Paul is singing. He's celebrating God, even in the darkest time, right? So we move on from that story to the fourth play that was here, a story about Eutychus. And this is kind of an interesting story, right? So we got the Eutychus he's sitting in a windowsill, which is not a good idea, and he's listening, and like literally the verse says, and Paul was going on and on. So Paul is, it's not very favorable to Paul here. He's getting a little bit boring. It would be like if someone was sitting on a windowsill in this class right here, which I do not recommend. And then I'm going on and on and on, and then suddenly you've fallen out of the windowsill. But the message here is that Paul is a miraculous resurrection story, right? So just like Jesus was resurrected, now Paul is the supernatural power of God to resurrect. It also shows the community of caring. So the community of believers in Troas they were concerned for Eutychus, right? I don't know if that's how you pronounce the name, Eutychus. All right. So then, and then we got the shipwreck on Malta, right? So we have Paul. He's out at sea, and he's actually being transported to Rome, I believe, and he gets shipwrecked. So what do you think Paul does when he finds himself upon shore? Is that he's not like, oh, I'm going to go escape. Nope. His first thing is that he's going to meet with the people there and teach them about Jesus. So in every one of these stories, it's Paul being like, hey, have you heard the good news? Have you heard the news of salvation? So he's these people kind of treat him well, and he says, all right, well, I want to teach you about Jesus. And then he meets this Publius, and his father has a fever and dysentery. So Paul goes and he heals him. And then this is just another miracle in the story of Paul's journey, right? So these are all really important stories. So now while Paul is on these journeys, he's writing letters. And he's writing letters to instruct these cities, to instruct these churches. He's writing letters to pastoral counsel, advice, to issues. He's writing the letters to build community, and he actually, even some of his letters, we'll find out next class about like all his letters, he's rebuking the church, saying you can't be doing this or you can't be doing this. And he knows these churches, right? Because he's been to them. So he's visiting these communities of believers. So he's writing letters not just to random groups of people. He's writing letters to people he knows, right? And so that's really important. And so what we're going to be doing today is writing letters to, the letters we're going to be writing is from the perspective of Paul to some of these people that we encountered today. So these are going to be a little more personal letters. The letters that are in the Bible from Paul are kind of to the church, right? To larger like bodies of people. But this is going to be personal letters from Paul to these individual people. So the people that he impacted in the stories, and kind of I want each person's letter to share kind of the message that Paul had, and also share like maybe something about the story, right? So for instance, if you choose to write to the crippled man in Lystra, you could say, oh, I hope that you're walking well, and then kind of say, teach Paul's message in it, which we're going to be learning more about in next class, about Paul's letters. But we're going to get started today. All right, I'll hand out the assignment.